Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at, well, 5 o'clock. Do you want to do roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Admin.
Here.
Commissioner Pratt is on his way. He should be here any moment. Commissioner Byers is on call, but he will join the meeting later. Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is public comment.
And so we have some participants in the room, and we have participants online. So
Okay.
if there's anyone in the room who wants to make a comment? Okay, none from in the room online in the Zoom room. If anyone would like to make a comment, go ahead and raise your hand. We have one person joining right now. So Mike D, we just made an announcement if anyone would like to make a public comment.
No, thank you, but thanks for asking.
So no public comments today.
Okay, so now we're on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, that passed. Oh, now we vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion passes unanimously. So now we are on to board discussion and possible action items. Discussion of property at Northeast 153rd Place. Chief?
Yes, so it looks like I got a few items to talk about tonight.
Yes.
So tonight, I just wanted to provide you an update with the progress on the analysis that's ongoing. That's not for any action tonight, but I would like to know if we want to have a special meeting or if we want to incorporate it into the next regularly scheduled, actually, it's a special, we're calling it a special meeting on the 11th. But so the consultants that we have are still trying to get some more data. And actually, I found out right before I left my office today that they're getting some of the data that they need from Norcom to kind of finish up the analysis. I've seen some preliminary data, but a lot of it is just not there yet because we're still waiting for the numbers. I think anecdotally, at least, we can recognize that staffing the station down there in South Kenmore would be an improvement in the responses to that area. What we need to do is weigh how big of an improvement and what's the how much would it cost if we needed to rebuild that station and so forth. And that's what I'd like to present to the board. And then we can have a bigger, more robust conversation about what to do, if we're going to keep it or not, and then what the options are.
Okay.
So I guess what I would like to know is, I think the conversation will probably, I would think at least take a half an hour, especially with public comment. I know that there's going to be people that are going to be wanting to
Sure.
add perspective. So at least a half hour, 45 minutes, if not longer,
Okay.
And so I guess my question is, incorporate it into the next board meeting or a special meeting in July. I expect they're telling me that by the end of this month, I will have a final version of the report. So theoretically, I should be able to have a meeting with the executive team and provide perspective from our executive team, by the 11th. But if we want to do it later in the month, that's fine too. But it's entirely up to the board whether you want to have an additional meeting to discuss it or if it can be incorporated into the existing meeting.
I think it could be incorporated.
I agree. It's just it's going to take some time to go through all of that. So,
Okay.
From my standpoint, I think it would be better for us as commissioners to get the information from your committee chief and get it out to us, by the 11th. But I think that we shouldn't even have a discussion until the August meeting, because we need to as commissioners, absorb the material before we put it before the public. That's my feelings.
Well, and certainly we need to make sure that we have the opportunity for the public to make comments as well. I expect that I can give you a draft here within the next few days of some of the information. But again, I wouldn't have the final version until late this month, as they're promising me by the 30th. So as soon as I get it, though, I will be forwarding it to you all, and with some discussion items to take into consideration. And it's entirely up to the board when I want to have a couple of meetings to, a meeting to present and digest, and then have another meeting to discuss, what the options are. I don't think there's a super big pressing timeline on this, except to have an idea, before we get into the fall, too far, because we need to give notice about what we're doing with the city.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay,
there's not something that says that we have to make a decision immediately.
okay. So.
So
is it
have the initial
something
discussion
we can get
on
the
11th.
information first,
Right.
and then we can discuss that way. Everyone's had some time to review it and come up with questions.
So I'll send it to you as soon as I get it, and then we can have a discussion on the 11th, and then maybe board action on the August meeting.
Okay, yeah.
If that sounds good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so from here, I'm gonna go back. I have a request for a public comment by Stacy Valenzuela. Go ahead, Stacy, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. It was nice to see some of you at Station 51 last week, and I'm glad to see Eric Admin is running to stay on the commission. 7 to 8 years is too long to allow just storage at the old firehouse at the corner of 153rd. I hope the tenant has been notified in writing per any policy, and I am glad finally we may see a future fire apparatus aid car use. Whoever we have brought up this in comments at the North Shore Fire Commission told they would hold jurisdiction. There has been graffiti, been an eyesore, and attracts a bad element. We, public residents, would like to be involved. It takes too many minutes, and it's a life and death if an aid car has to come from Shoreline up the hill if Station 51 aid car is busy. Half the building can be used for youth center, starting businesses below 50% and below affordable housing. And there is many grants that are available now to fit all that. And it could be for starting firefighters. I would also love to see in our community a safe haven box. They only run about $2,000. It is an alert box with newborn secure so that any person can, without contact, anonymously drop off a baby, and a bell rings to alert the firefighters on duty. We as residents can work to help keep a supply of initial needs with diapers, formula, and these kind of things. This has been proven as a way to save babies. We still have a community garden up on the side of North Shore Lutheran Church, but you could still add a couple boxes in the outside area of that building as well. We hope that you will consider all the residents' concerns as we go forward, because we continually support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. I also see Dave Marin has a hand up. Is that correct? Okay,
muted.
so you've got 3 minutes to speak, Mr. Marin.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board. I have a couple things I'd like to address. One is regarding the Station 54, just, what you're going to do with that. Please let the community know what the options are so we can actually have a intelligent dialogue with the board about our preferences. Second, regarding the audiovisual bids for Station 51, I'm still confused as why we're spending so much money on that equipment when we're not the ones using the equipment. It's that Shoreline and the training consortium are the ones using that. There should at least be a cost share on that. Next, the training consortium outbuildings. Again, why would North Shore pay for those buildings when it's a training consortium need, not a North Shore Fire Department need? again, it should at least be a cost sharing if you're in fact going to do it. And second on that, outbuildings, one of the reasons we built the new station over here and abandoned our previous station is because we didn't have a large enough training ground. If you keep adding buildings there, you're not going to have the training ground that you have now, and you're going to defeat one of the best assets you have. And then finally, on the transfer of the surplus aid cars, I would ask you to delay your decision on that. Those aid cars today, a used aid car like the ones you have, are worth about $45,000 each. I'd also note that giving an aid car to Peru, when there are lots of volunteer agencies that would just be delighted to have one of our aid cars, something they can't afford on their own. So please delay that. And I also think you should maybe ask legal counsel about the appropriateness of surplusing and giving away an item that has that much value. Today, an aid car costs $270,000. Like it says in your agenda, it's hard to believe that in 10 short years, it's worth nothing because it's not. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back again to everyone in here that came in a little late. Did anybody want to make a public comment? No, okay. We good? Okay, okay. So now we're gonna go on to the discussion of audio visual bids in station 51 in this room.
I wonder, since we had so many people join later, of just doing a very short recap of what the timeline is for this.
Sure.
Property at one.
Did you get the dates and everything?
No.
Okay.
So I'm expecting a final report out from the consultants by the 30th of this month. If I get it on, as soon as I get it, I will be forwarding it to the board to start digesting, what that looks like with a presentation on the 11th with potential board action on the August meeting.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to discussion of the audio visual bids for station 51.
So we've reached out, or I should say Zev has reached out to 5 different organizations using MRSC, and not surprisingly, we're getting it's hard to get anybody to even bid on things lately. So of the 5, we've gotten 2 back. One is going to combine with one of the bids that we have back, and one backed out, and the other one is not communicating with us. So I'm still trying to get that third bid before we act on it. But we are using MRSC, and we are pursuing all of the ones that are listed there. So I feel we're complying with and especially with the due diligence, we're complying with the bid laws and so forth. But that's where we're at. The 2 bid, I'm not going to discuss how big the bids are, but the 2 bids that we have gotten are almost identical in price. So that there's a little bit of confidence, at least, that they're seeing the same system and bidding on it appropriately. I don't know if we're going to get a third bid or not. I'm going to try. We've already been trying for 2 or 3 weeks now. Unfortunately, it is a 6-month, at least 6 months on getting the parts and everything. So we're looking at, potentially, I'm hoping before the end of this year, but it's really getting to be debatable whether or not we're going to have traction on this year.
Okay.
So I just want to give you some feedback on that. And if there's any questions on that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And that is, again, a good point that Mr. Marin brought up was the cost sharing for this audio visual update is just partly due to the consortium. We should have some cost sharing. What is put into place to cover some of these costs?
Well, first of all, it's not just for the consortium, it's for our personnel as well. But per the contract that North Shore chose to go with, not only are capital costs of this size, anything over 10,000 is the responsibility of North Shore Fire Department, but also IT related, costs are specifically identified in the contract as a North Shore cost. So there's no cost sharing with the shoreline side of the budget.
I understand that, but part of this update is to help the consortium. It's needed to help their part of it. So what percentage are they gonna put in to pay for it?
Some of that, well, they are.
Or do we bill them?
Well, they're already contributing towards some of the upkeep with the, I think it's $28,000 or $35,000 a year towards some of the upkeep of the IT, infrastructure and so forth. We don't have a mechanism for billing the consortium right now. It's something I guess I could review with thoughtful to see where they're at, if they want to contribute towards it, but it's embedded in the annual fee that we get, as part of the consortium already.
Okay, so do we need to adjust that annual fee to cover some of these costs? Because we are doing a bunch of updates for not only the audio visual, but the other buildings and that we're talking.
The buildings is a different story, and I am billing. I can talk about that when we get to it, but
Okay.
well, I mean, I can talk about it right now. So on the outbuildings, I have a PowerPoint that we can bring up, and I can show you kind of some of the concepts of it. We are investing in long-term, solutions to reduce the wear and tear on the actual 51 station. And that includes the outbuilding to not only protect apparatus and equipment, have storage areas. And I am billing the consortium over a life cycle for a good part of the cost. And it's embedded in the fees that we're charging for the academies, the per capita. It's about, some of the costs are, in the neighborhood of about $2,600 per student, averaged out over the next 20 years. So there is a recovery of costs that will be long-term, embedded in these projects. So, but it's also, there is a benefit to us outside of the consortium in reducing the wear and tear on 51, not only, like this room and some of the other storage areas, but some of the equipment like the extractors, the SCBA compressor, things of that nature. So there is a benefit to us, and we're investing in long-term collaboration regionally on this. And to Commissioner Webster's and Dave's, point is that there should be some cost sharing, and there is.
Thank you.
If you can bring up the PowerPoint and share that.
So just before, are there any other discussion items on 4.2, the audio visual? before we
Yeah.
move on?
I don't-
Yeah.
Did you, Josh?
I do have a question
Okay. Go ahead,
Uh,
Commissioner.
because I've been out of the loop for a couple of meetings. I probably missed this discussion, but could I just have a quick synopsis? What is the scope that's being proposed of the audio visual upgrades?
It's mostly this room. The existing projector, the wiring, the infrastructure, the routing, the hardware, it's all failing and it's all proprietary. So we're trying to replace it with something that's a little bit more not proprietary, more simple, so that it's not as costly to replace. But the projector alone, it's a $25,000 to $30,000 projector. So and it's well beyond its life cycle, and it's not to the quality that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is the slides, the training consortium discussion or,
No, it's 4.3. Well, yeah, the outbuilding.
okay,
Yeah, I just kind of, this is, Anders did a great job. He sent it to me this afternoon. I haven't even looked at it fully myself. But it kind of conceptualizes and some of the rough costs that we're looking at
okay,
for the buildings, so that you all can see kind of what we're looking at doing.
okay,
The building that we're looking at is very minimal in nature,
okay,
of 3 bays plus a mezzanine, to do what we call dirty classroom. So that when the academies are here, that they can use that building,
Mm.
not only for storage, but for classroom, dirty classroom type stuff.
Gotcha.
They still come in here for lectures, but dirty stuff or manipulative stuff, they would go there. They'd also have that building for working out when the weather is inclement, to the point of, needing to be inside instead of taking up base space, storage, extractor, the things that we've talked about. But this will give you kind of an idea of what we're looking for. And this is going to be rough. I'll just get to the end slide and say that we're probably looking around $500,000. For a metal, very minimal, type of building. But all we have is estimates right now. We are clearly going to have to go out to bid on this because of the size of the project. And so what I promised you all was a rough idea of what we were looking at before we moved any further and actually asked for, actual bids. So, okay.
Not, I'll announce that Commissioner Byers has joined the meeting.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so this is at 63 actually. So it's similar in nature. It's just gonna be a metal clad building with 3 bays.
Can I pause you? None of the people in the
Oh,
audience can
that's
see
true.
it. Should we have them come around us? You guys are welcome back here. Yeah. Kind of defeats the purpose if you can't see anything.
As I said, I just got this right before I left to come over here, so I'm working through these slides. along
Okay,
with you all.
yep.
So the advantages, some of them are listed there. That's the outbuilding at 63. We're looking at 3 bay. And go ahead to the next slide. Again, with a mezzanine in the upstairs with an exterior staircase to access that mezzanine area that would be walled off with some windows as well. These are some of the rough costs that we received from the manufacturer that built it as a kind of a kit. This building would come as a kit, and then depending on what structural foundation we needed, would get built, right there. About 210,000 just for the structure itself. That's before bay doors, before the windows. Well, the windows are about $1,000. I think the stairway, and Anders is online, so he can correct me on if you have any detailed questions. But this doesn't include an exhaust system, doesn't include the roll-up doors, doesn't include electrical and so forth. We are just guesstimating, and that's a $200,000 to $250,000, cost. But we need to go through the bids to really know. Next, I can use if you like. Okay. Next slide. So these are, some of the estimated costs, for roll-up doors, the stairway on the exterior stairway to the mezzanine, some windows in for the mezzanine. Next slide. If you have any questions, just stop. These are some of the additional costs that I just mentioned. We're not sure if we're going to have to do foundation improvements. It might be able to just go right onto the existing concrete, but electrical service to the building, exhaust ventilation systems, heating, some site prep. Next slide. We'd also like to look at minimizing the impacts on our bathrooms and facilities here. So looking at getting a trailer that would be able to be parked out next to that building. Right in the median, there's a grass or there's a bark and bush median that we put right next to this building. We're looking at doing this in the northwest corner.
Okay.
Right now, we store a bunch of stuff there, and so it would be a permanent structures, where we can move things now, but it is space that's being used for storage type stuff already.
Gotcha.
Next slide. We're also looking at doing a carport again on the just south of there on the west end, again to give some covered parking to minimize the exposure, to our existing vehicles and so forth. We don't have a price on that. Probably be fairly minimal. This is a picture of one at 61 on the right hand side.
Okay.
The left hand side is where we'd be looking at doing it. That where you see those yellow bollards is where that median that I was just mentioning, where we put the facilities trailer.
Okay.
And to the right of that would be where this building would go. Next slide. Again, extractor and a bunker gear dryer. Where the extractor itself, we're actually targeting, this is a way of kind of blending some of the needs. Shoreline is already budgeted for the extractor. The extractor we had just yesterday, actually, they came out and took a look at the extractor and said it's in pretty good shape. It's actually still got some service life. So Shoreline would buy a new extractor and give this extractor to the, to be used, for academy. So we wouldn't have to worry about buying an extractor. But again, some of these costs are already embedded in what we're charging per capita for future, current and future academies. So the replacement of an extractor and some of these things would be embedded into each of the academies going forward. Next slide. Bunker gear storage. Initially, we put it into a storage room here for this upcoming academy, and then move it into the new building. Next slide. There's another one. Oh, maybe that was it. Okay, I guess that was it. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at doing. It is a bit of money, but it is something that we're investing in long term to be not only because we are going to continue to see academies, and this is as it's been mentioned, this is a great facility and it's regional, and we've already had conversations with Kirkland and Bothell about this, and they're committed to being collaborative, long term as well.
Okay.
So that's where we're at, and so if there's any detailed questions, Anders is available, potentially if he's still there.
I have a couple of questions,
Sure.
if it's okay. Well, Kenmore City has design issues, and they don't approve metal buildings. So in this project, this building was originally going to be 2 bays, and it was substantially smaller. Now it's gotten quite big. We need to make sure that the city of Kenmore will even approve such a building before we even push further on this. And so that's just one of the questions I have on that.
Okay. If it's okay, Anders, have you worked with Kenmore on this yet, as yet? Is he muted, or does he have to just unmute himself? Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, good evening. So we did have some conversations with City of Kenmore at the time. Actually, Commissioner Webster, the size of the building has never changed. This is the same size that's been proposed. It's gotten a little taller, but the footprint has been the same the whole time. We spoke with Kenmore. We tried to do a pre-application meeting. I think that's what they call it, based off of what TCA recommended. And they don't do those, but we did show them what we had in store, and they did not indicate that it was a no at the time. So we haven't got anything directly from them that says they can or cannot do it. Like I said, we tried to schedule a pre-application meeting. That's what it was with TCA, and they don't do pre-application meetings, so we were not able to get that answer.
Thank you. So that was one of my questions. The second part of this building, I like the idea of it, but I believe this is strictly the consortium's needs. So is the financing going to be through the consortium, or are they covering the cost of this? Because North Shore Fire Department as a function does not need this building. It's the training consortium. So I don't have a problem approving this, but the cost should be borne by the consortium. That's my feelings on this.
Well, the consortium doesn't have funds to do something like this. This would be funded by the North Shore Fire Department, and then the cost recovery would be over the long term. Respectfully, there is benefit to our personnel in having this building, and reducing the wear and tear on our existing building. So I don't believe that it's fully just a consortium benefit. I think there's a benefit to our existing personnel. I think there's a benefit to our existing facility and equipment, and to be able to even get the rigs out of the weather and so forth too is a benefit.
Okay, so we're.
So I guess what I'm looking for is if there's still continued support to move forward and get actual quotes and nail down the pricing.
I would say so. We don't know what we're working with until we have that.
And we can answer the question too, of whether or not Kenmore, hopefully we can pin them down and find out if Kenmore is gonna approve, this building, so. So that's, if you guys are ready to, I'd continue to have Anders work on this.
I would just encourage you to continue to move forward, to investigate the feasibility of it. And then, let's put together a document that kind of outlines what this does for the organization and what the benefits are of having this facility be kind of the epicenter regionally of the training consortium and having academies here. The benefits to limiting the wear and tear on North Shore Station 51's extractors and facilities, the wear and tear that happens on the apparatus from sitting out during academies, the infringement on the on-duty crews by the academy being in their space, right? The limited access to community groups because the academies are always in this space. So just like what happens when you have this facility that benefits the North Shore Fire Department?
Okay, I can work on that, and I'll work with Anders on, he's already, articulate some of those.
Yeah.
And I'll get that for you.
Okay, I could add a couple items to that too. One of the other things that, adding that building, how does that impact parking for the academy students? We're starting to crunch our space on the property. So we've really got to look at this whole thing as the addition.
Typically, we've had the parking off-site for the academy. I can't guarantee that for all academies, but especially the bigger academies, because the commissioner is absolutely correct that we overload, our ability it eliminates the parking for everybody else. When we have a bigger academy, we are expecting an academy of 25 for this, starting with the Kirkland and Shoreline, coming up. So that's gonna, there will be an impact, and I would expect that they're gonna be parking off-site.
Okay,
I have a second part of that also is that, with the, what's the negative impacts of putting that building on? We need to look at that and get it, how does that impact the consortium and the rest of our space? We actually need to have a study done for this. I love the work that's been done, but we need to have, normally we'd get an architectural firm and put the whole proposal together and look at the impacts of putting this building in. It's grown so much that it's not just putting a couple bay shop in there. It's going to impact us. So I think that we do need to make have somebody that's available to do the research and come back to the board on it.
The scope of this building hasn't changed, is my understanding. We're trying to keep the costs, to a minimal amount. What are you envisioning for a study, or what is it that you're looking for? Is that something that we can do, or is that something that you're expecting a third party to do, or what is it that you're looking for?
I believe that to do any buildings in Kenmore now to get it through the city is that we have to have a architectural firm put together and look at the proposal as a whole and look at the engineering, the impacts, the city impacts, all that. And my understanding is that we have to have an official program put in place by an architectural firm to walk through this, to get it through the city. At least that's what we've had to do in the past.
The building does come engineered, but maybe Andrew can speak to that more. The question is whether or not it can go on our existing cement or if it needs a foundation. And that would certainly, to your point, and you're absolutely right, in that it would we would have, if that's the case, then it would have to get engineered and stamped and all of that as well. Which would, it's one of the costs that we have to, which we need to identify, was identified in that slideshow too. That we would need to, confirm. But my understanding is that the building is engineered and comes, stamped, in that sense.
Yeah, and we'll still have electrical, the utility supplies. Yeah, so there's quite a bit more than just seeing if it lands on concrete,
No, I mean, we're still trying to figure out what the options are for electrical even. There's a couple of different ways that we can look at that, so.
So it's still in the very beginning stages
Yeah,
is what
I
I'm
mean,
hearing.
We haven't nailed down any of the,
Okay.
a lot of these are all good questions. I mean, we just haven't nailed. I didn't want to continue moving forward unless there was support in spending more time and money and resources, unless there's support.
Yeah, I have a comment and a question. So my comment is, I think it's worth continuing to move forward, discussing this and looking at it, maybe having some scoping discussions. So, it's not a whole proposal right now. It's something, it's a concept, and we need to kind of continue to evaluate as Commissioner Pratt suggested, what it's going to entail and what the exact scope and cost would be. And I think as we get closer to something that's a true proposal, then we would consider whether we want to then go to an architectural firm and do all the detailed work that needs to be done to translate it into reality. So I think for now, I support moving forward just kind of with the concept and evaluating the concept, starting to refine the concept from a cost standpoint and a scope standpoint, and then we can have those discussions. I also do have an additional comment regarding the use of chat by the meeting attendees in particular. I think we've discussed this in the past and decided that we were not going to have ongoing chat. In fact, we disabled it previously from meeting attendees because I appreciate the feedback that people are providing, but you're not all participating in the discussion like one of the fire commissioners. So I think maybe we need to have a side discussion on that, but I believe that what we'd agreed on in the past is we were not going to have ongoing chat as part of our meeting.
I also thought we had agreed to that, but we can look into that. Anders Hansen, you have your hand raised. So I'm assuming you've got a comment for us.
I just wanted to address a couple of things that Chief Cowan was talking about, and that is, historically with all the academies, the academy attendees they always park off site. We haven't had anybody park on site as far as I think since we moved in that building, so that's not affected. The proposed location of the building is that back corner where currently what we do is we store trailers in that big 18-wheeler, and that's where the fire engines are parked during the academies. So there is no negative impact to placing the building there. And as far as the training ground, it actually enhances the training ground because it's with it being a large, high ceiling building with our inclement weather we typically have for about 9 months out of the year. We can do, ropes, technical rescue training. We can do all kinds of training inside the building and not be affected by the weather. So it's actually an enhancement to the training ground for not only our crews on a daily basis, it's also for the consortium. And when the academy is not going on, then we'll be using it to store our trailers, our backup fire engines, all kinds of different, the pickups, the stuff that sits outside now and just gets yard rot because it sits in the weather year round. So it's an enhancement to the training ground, and it does not negatively impact the parking. And as far as we worked with TCA and worked with the city, and really all they needed was the site plan, and that's what TCA has already provided for us, which has been shared with the city. So anyhow, that's all. I just want to kind of answer a couple of those discussions.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to go on to the next topic? Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. The transfer agreement for the surplus aid pump.
Right, so we have 2 aid cards that are coming up for surplus. One's a Legacy North Shore, one's a Legacy Shoreline. The Legacy Shoreline is not a good one to donate to Peru because it's a big international chassis. It's a TerraStar chassis. It's just bigger. It's just not good for an urban environment. And there isn't much value in e-cars when they're surplus. Typically on the open market, you're seeing anywhere, I've seen them as low as $4,000. I've seen the high of $12,000-15,000, so typically run 6 to 10, and there isn't, it's really sad, because the value of our fire apparatus does not follow the same depreciation that you would see in normal vehicles. Even a fire engine that we're now spending $1.2 million on, when we rotate it out of service, it's worth $15,000-20,000 maybe. It's kind of ridiculous what the depreciation is, but that is what the market is. We would not be, I did work with Matt Paxton on developing the resolution and transfer agreements that you have to make sure that it's legal and so forth. Other departments have donated ladder trucks and fire engines and so forth. And certainly, to Dave's, point, we can certainly, either look at, other needy departments for the shoreline surplus rig or sell it, at a low price or whatever. We would not be spending the money to transfer the rig to Peru. That is on Lima to figure that part out. They still have in service. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, the rig that we donated 20 something years ago at the point. So it's probably in that almost 40-year range, and they're still, I saw pictures of it, when they came. So I feel like this is a really cool thing that we can do with, with really not much impact, to the department. We could recover some costs in the selling the car on the open market, but the likelihood is that we're not going to get a whole lot of money for it. So that's why I'd like to, surplus it out. We are expecting our new cars to be here within the next few weeks, and certainly by early July to be in service. So we at that point we will be out of space and be looking to shed some of the space. That's why I've got it in front of you tonight, is to hopefully get action.
That's something, I apologize for getting here late. You guys move along so quick. You're already went past the point that I was interested in.
Okay,
So I'm just gonna head out and come back for the next meeting in July.
okay. Is it something we can answer for you?
Well, it was about the property at 153rd Place. I live directly next door to that property.
Okay,
So I'm just, very interested in what's going on there.
so we.
July 11th, we'll have a presentation about what we're looking at, the benefits of holding on to the building and potential options with potential board action maybe in August.
I see. They're discussing it in July and then
we'll sit on it and let it, work its way through. And if there's any other questions or anything else that we need to consider, and then come back in August and, maybe take action at that point. That'd be a board decision as to.
where do we are that day? So
July or
I
August.
won't be here.
So,
I'm gonna cruise to Puerto Vallarta on July 11th, so
okay.
I'll have to rely on my neighbors to give our input. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So personally, I like the donation factor. I just think if we can help, why not? I would love to look at the shoreline rig, going to someone here that, is in need. But I like the idea of it going over, but that's just me.
I'm also in favor of the donation. We talked about this, the last meeting. We have a history with this organization of donating apparatus there. We have a history within this organization. The last apparatus we surplused got donated as well a few years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm on board.
I have a comment to make is, reading the documentation, I don't know where we got values for the surplus aid cars, but if you check online, they are going for $45,000. I have no problem donating to either Peru or to some volunteer place, but we need to look at that, Matt Paxton, is this something, I believe there's more value than we're putting for this aid car. And we need to be careful that we're giving away something that has value.
I would agree that there's a lot of aid cars out there that are listed at that amount, but through our experience of trying to surplus out aid cars locally here in our region, it is in that neighborhood that I mentioned. The reality we've done, Shoreline at least has done sealed bids. It's done open bids or auctions, and we just don't. They're listed. Commissioner is absolutely right. They get listed all over the place for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I don't know how much they're selling for. I'm just telling you what we're selling for here in our area.
Chief, could you give us an idea of the last 2 or 3 apparatus that you have surplus? What are the values that you've gotten for those?
Last one that Shoreline surplus was a fire engine, and we sold the fire engine for $8,000. I know because my chief bought it and then it blew up.
Oh.
And then the engine died, and he doesn't want to buy another rig from me again, because I'm still a deputy chief and still pulling fast. So he bought it. I believe we've sold some of our staff vehicles, but they only get like $1,000, a couple $1,000. It's been a while since we've surplused out an aid car, because we've been repurposing some of them, to training vehicles and so forth. I can find out, but my understanding is that we haven't sold anything for more than 15,000. And well, no, the ladder truck, we sold the ladder truck, and I didn't get 15,000. They got like 10. I think I got 10,000 for the ladder truck, which you'd think you could melt it down and make $10,000.
Right.
But I'm not making this up. I think it's a travesty that they don't hold their value, but it's what it is. Most of these, well, the ladder truck is out at Remlinger Farms as a display. Farmers buy the fire engines and park them on their rigs in Eastern Washington, or on their properties in Eastern Washington for wildland protect. They just sit there. There's not a lot of value, in them, which again, I disagree with. I'm not happy about, but that's the reality.
Eric or Rick, anything to add?
I'm not sure how much time it's worth if we have a general sense of what the value actually is of these. I mean, if it would make Commissioner Webster address his concerns, could probably do some sort of a market survey before doing the surplus process. But I have a feeling that the result that we'll find out is probably pretty much what the chief is telling us. But if that would address the concern, maybe that would be something to do.
I did ask our Patrick, our shop supervisor, and I said, what do you think the value is? And he was in the same range as I was, and he's out there more than I am. I don't know how to get a real price unless we're to list it. All I can tell you is what our experience is.
Is
I
there a
could
way?
try and find out from other departments what they potentially sold their aid cars for, if they've sold them, and try and get a sense that way. If you'd like.
That'd probably be a good idea to alleviate some of the concerns of citizens and of Commissioner Webster. I'd also like to hear from Mr. Paxton, if you have any input on this discussion, the legality of the donation and of how we are to determine the value of our resource.
I do. So this is a donate or a transfer to a foreign entity, and that's covered under a specific statute. It requires that the district receives true and full bear value for the aid car, which is a somewhat flexible term. The Attorney General has given opinions that you could receive in exchange, something else of value, money or property, or other types of things of value. And here, what I understand that the exchange is going to be is for a written agreement, some sort of release of claims from the fire department in Lima, as well as the costs of transporting it to Lima. I don't have a good sense of what this is worth, although I'm aware other departments do make these type of transfers for minimal value because they've determined that they are not worth any substantial amount. Recognizing that if you sell it at auction, there will be a fee for the auction. There may be costs necessary to bring the aid car into a condition that it can be sold safely. So those would need to be factored in when you're deciding what is true and fair value for this aid car. The auditor doesn't have a recommendation on how you establish that true and full value. So what you're doing here in this meeting is I think what was intended, right, is talk it over, figure out what is the best information we can find for this value, and then make a decision. We've put that into the resolution itself, so that if the auditor ever were to look at it, they would understand just from reading the resolution that we've had this discussion and understand where the board as a whole, who's in probably the best position to decide what the value is, having heard from the fire chief and everyone. That resolution would be the document we would point to say, okay, well, we did look into it. We didn't decide that was worth more than what we're getting from the fire department in Lima.
I think so. Probably passed about an aid car from east side not too like a year or two ago. Spent like 6,000. We can wait till July 11th. We're going to have these aid cars, before July 11th, and take action at that point. And I can try and find out from recent sales, what it's worth. If that would make everybody more comfortable. I was just hoping to have this taken care of so we can manage getting the rigs, swapped out and out of here. So, but we can wait till July 11th if you prefer.
Could we do that, Chief? That would be my preference, to have a little more time with it.
Okay. I'll try and find what I can for what other departments have sold them for, or what they're buying them for.
Okay.
Again, I do have a little bit of history with some of the smaller volunteer departments too.
Okay.
Thank you.
So next up is our discussion on commissioner issued laptops.
So this is just so the North Shore commissioners have department issued laptops. That's different than Shoreline, but I don't know whose it is, but somebody's laptop broke. And Zeb, oh, okay, there you go. I didn't know who it was. So Zeb asked me to clarify how you guys wanted to approach the laptops. If you want to continue replacing them as a department expense, or if this was on you all individually to have your own laptops.
So my only concern with this is that if something gets subpoenaed, I'm not sure if that's the
It
right
does
word.
open it up. Yes.
Because I can't be without my personal laptop because I use it for my work.
Okay.
So that's my only concern with that, is I can't hand over my laptop and have somebody take it while they
Okay.
do
What you
stuff.
mean what they're doing, like a search? And all.
Right.
It's I don't really have a say in this, and I don't have a position. I just need to know so that Zeb can figure out, how to go about it if this is going to be a continued expense from the North Shore Fire Department.
Got you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rick.
From our standpoint, that's exactly why we had our department supply the computers individually for each commissioner and for our board secretary. And I believe it should stay that way. If we need to update, let's stay with it because, yeah, the OPA and all that. All right, thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
From my, from my standpoint, the laptop that I have is, I mean, I guess it works, it's pretty old and obsolete. I don't really need to compose. I mean, I suppose if I were to compose a work product, it would be easier to do on a laptop than an iPad. So there is still some value in having a laptop.
I can have Zeb take a look at all of your laptops and come up with a replacement strategy as well. If that's, and if
yeah.
yours is due, then maybe we're looking at two instead of just one.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's probably a good,
Okay.
if he doesn't mind looking at that.
I agree with that too, Chief.
Okay, sounds good.
So discussion on iPad purchase.
So I just want to give you an update on that. Thanks. Some of you had responded back. We missed that opportunity to get the cheaper versions. But Zeb did find at least not as good a deal, but a deal still. We have made the purchase. Most of them are here already. The good news is through his due diligence, he's actually found some savings on the mounts, which is good.
Nice.
So I just want to give you an update as to where we're at. So.
Okay. Okay, on to board resolutions. It's the resolution,
Table
what?
it.
Oh, we're tabling.
Till July 11.
Okay. So onto the consent agenda, we're on vouchers.
I think the consent agenda as a whole, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We're now on the fire chief's report.
Any questions?
I didn't have any. I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to
No,
highlight.
I apologize to Amy already. I'll apologize to the whole board. There were some late breaking things. That's why we had this, but I was able to add things to the agenda instead of adding things to my activity report.
Gotcha.
I will do a better job of not twisting Amy as much. So it was not her fault. It was completely my fault.
And commissioner reports?
All right, does Commissioner Webster or Byers or admin have any questions of the chief?
Nope. Okay. So commissioner reports? I don't know that we have any. Nope. Okay. Legal counsel report. Mr. Paxton?
Thank you and good evening, commissioners. I just wanted to report a recent legislative change to the competitive bidding laws. I know the board just passed a competitive bidding procurement policy. Seems like these things need to get updated every couple of years anyways. And in 2024, the laws will have changed a little bit again. First change is related to the small works roster. With the goal of having more small minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses involved in that process. So there's kind of a new procedure for that. And the second change relates to apprenticeship programs. Currently, only the state is required to utilize apprenticeship programs for their public works. And in 2024, that's going to be starting to phase into other public agencies, starting kind of in a phased-in approach. So starting at larger projects, $2 million or more, there will be a percentage requirement for contractors on those public works to utilize apprentices. So that's my legal update. Just kind of changes coming in 2024. Unless there's any questions, that is it.
I don't have any questions. Do you?
Can you make sure you forward me any language that you get, Matt, and I can try and incorporate that into policies?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so upcoming board agenda. What do you have so far, Amy?
And so the next meeting will be Tuesday, July 11th. It'll actually be a special meeting because we canceled the July 4th meeting due to the federal holiday. So with special meetings, our agenda gets set in at least 24 hours in advance. So we can't make day of or in the meeting changes. to the
Okay.
agenda as a heads up. So for items, we have the discussion on the consultant's report for the property at Northeast 153rd Place. Will there be a need for AV discussion?
I'll have a report out. You know, at that point, we will have gotten our third bid, or we will not have gotten our third bid. And by then, we will have made the decision.
Okay, so a report out on AV bid. A continued discussion of the consortium outbuildings, is that also an item?
Again, probably a report out. I don't know if we'll have much substantive thing. I mean, we'll have some report out, and I'll work on that report out that Commissioner Webster asked for as far as the benefits and so forth, so that. But I'll do that before we even get to that next meeting, but you know, I think we should keep it on the agenda for at least the discussion.
Okay, and then there'll be a discussion, the analysis of the aid cars, the valuation of aid cars, and then the resolution that we tabled tonight, 2023-1.
Anybody think of anything else? Go ahead, Eric.
I'd like to add a discussion on conduct of our combined in-person and Zoom meetings and the ground rules that we enforce.
I think that's a great idea. Okay,
I would like to just kind of go to the order. It's in my activity report too, but the pancake breakfast, the open house and pancake breakfast. Holy cow, I've never flipped so many pancakes. It was really cool to get back in person. There was a ton of people. I have no idea what the count was. It seemed like I don't know, at least 1,500, 2,000 people.
Oh my goodness, that's
came through, I
awesome.
would guess. I don't know. All I did is, you know, flip pancakes for over 5 hours. But it was really cool. The weather was perfect. Looked like everybody was having fun, you know, all that. So I just wanted to say thanks to all those that were involved and look forward to it next year. A big shout out to Wendy Booth, Michelle Piddick, Matt Hochstein, Jennifer Kunkel. They all did some outstanding work in doing the setup and all that.
That's
And
awesome.
Matt was the MC as well. So I heard I was behind the grill the whole time, but I could hear him running around all over the place, you know, talking about the demos. So we had demonstrations going on for extrication and some hose evolutions and so forth. So it was a lot of fun.
great.
My wife even had fun.
Good, that's a good thing. So when I missed it because I was at a leadership conference in Chelan, and maybe I can talk a few minutes about that at the next meeting, Amy.
Tyler was flipping pancakes beside me there for a while too. So.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn. All right,
Thank you.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.